Quite a long time ago, I made a video about AH flipping mods. Mods that allow you to search through the AH with just more filters, in my opinion, are okay, and to be honest, they're more just quality of life. But there are most definitely more extreme mods that I don't really like. They're not disallowed, but I think they just detract from what AH flipping actually is. What we're going to take a look at today is especially relevant given my last video was actually about an AH flipping macroer. But today we're going to take a look at the other end of the spectrum. You might have seen me use this website a lot. You're able to search for any item on the AH, add pretty much any filter that you could possibly think of on an item, and look back at that specific item's entire auction history. We can go like a week, a month, if it loads, and then of course, all time. And of course, if we adjust the filter, for instance, to recombobulated, you can see it just searches for recombobulated items. Now, this website is Cofflenet, and along with the entire Skyblock auction house history, there's also many other features. For instance, an item flipper, profitable crafts, and so on. You see, what we have here is essentially what the algorithm detects as a profitable flip. It simply just tells you the amount of profit, the amount, the cost, and how much it would usually sell for. It would just be a simple case of clicking on any of these items, and then it kind of copies a link to it in game. From there, it's just a case of Control V, and it'll take you to the auction on the auction house. Fair enough. I mean, this isn't traditional auction house flipping. You know, traditional auction house flipping would be simply actually scouring the AH, looking for flips, whereas this is just giving you the flip and you straight up just enter the link and buy it. There's not really any thought that goes into it. If you've ever wondered how people macro AH flipping, well, I think we've found how they do it. There is a system set up right there, whereby it's giving you all of the profitable flips, and it's just a case of copy and pasting a link into Minecraft and simply then purchasing the item. In addition to that, on the Cofflenet website, it also tells you how much it estimates the item will actually sell for. That's how it actually calculates your profit. So all of the information that's needed is already there. But today's not really so much about the macroers. Let's take a look at how some people discovered a little bit of a bug in the system and I guess took advantage of these said macroers. But before we do, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. You should subscribe to the channel. If you watch the videos and you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. You should join the Discord server. It's linked in the description of this video. We offer Slayers and Dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry, make some coins, make sure to join. So we know that there is macroers who basically work off this algorithm. Macros set up to purchase anything that the mod is telling them that's profitable. But how does the mod determine something's sell price? What if something's being market manipulated? Can the mod actually detect that? Well, in short, yes, but there's a way to make it think that it's not. Well, let's just take a look at this auction house history really quick. Honestly, at first look at it's really incredibly confusing. You have random blobfish hats selling for 100 mil, Celeste chestplate selling for 200 mil, Rosetta's helmet selling for 500 mil. For instance here, Portal to the Forgotten Skull sold for 150 mil, 170 mil, 170, 170, 110, 110, 110. You might be thinking, well, how on earth does this link to these auction house macros? Well, let's take a look. I was very confused with these auctions and got in contact with the person who was actually able to sell these items for such a high price. It turns out that you can trick the bot into basically thinking that an item is worth a lot of money if the item is actually bought for that amount of money multiple times. For instance, if you take an item that's never listed on the AH, so there's not really any auction house history, but is really, like a low tier item, if you list it for a very high price, and then you have somebody else buy it up for you, do that 4 times, that is enough for the algorithm to think that the item is worth that amount of money. For instance, if you'd done that with an item that you'd sold for 200 million coins, that might only be worth a couple of million or even 1,000. You can then go ahead and list that item for, I don't know, like 150 to 100 mil, and then the algorithm detects that as a flip, and everyone who has macros set up on this flip instantly buys out those items because the algorithm thinks it's a flip, therefore the macro buys it. It really is a strange concept, and I don't really know how to feel about it. They also have a friend who also seems to have been doing this same kind of method, yeah, it kind of is just much of the same, with items being listed for a confused amount of coins, but actually selling. Now, sure, some of them will be somebody who he knows buying them up to make the algorithm think that the item's worth that much, but then there'll be some which are listed for way lower, that will actually be basically the macros. I just want to make it clear again that I would not try this because I just think it is a little bit too dodgy. But at the same time, a normal person is not going to look at a travel scroll to the Howling Cave and think, oh, 100 mil's a good deal. And it literally is exclusively macros who end up buying these items for a ridiculously high price. It is a little bit confusing, it is difficult to spot. However, we can see here that there was a portal to Arachne's Sanctuary sold for 500 mil, another one here for 350, and another one here for 200, and you can only assume that this one and maybe even this one was bought up by macros. They claim to have made around about 5 billion coins just taking money from macros in this way, which is, yeah, pretty interesting. Now, something that is also interesting to know is not all of these attempts that they actually made to actually sell these items actually worked, which is interesting. So supposedly the flips appear when the item is listed at 90% of the actual sell value, or what the mod determines to be the sell value, which makes it a little bit confusing as to why some of the items that they listed after they did this method as it had worked before, they just simply didn't sell. For the most part they did, but sometimes they didn't. What's also interesting is the last video that I made about the actual macro, the AH flipping macro. He seemed to flip a massive range of items. However, there was some very, very specific items that were left out of the items that were purchased. For instance, well, portals and also skins, and I guess maybe these are the two most manipulated items. And I think the tell that made them know that it was the macros that were buying them up is the fact that they were literally being instantly bought. Now, no one's going to be, you know, refreshing the pages for, you know, portal scrolls or portal warps, because anybody who's actually going to look at those items know that they shouldn't sell for that amount, and they're simply not good to flip. But for some sort of automated system that doesn't know any better, the stars definitely align. It will be interesting to know if any of you guys have come across this before, though, because I think it's quite clever, and the fact that it's actually macros buying the items up doesn't really make it as bad as a regular market manipulation. It is completely different. And while I'm sure it's pretty much happened to everyone where they'll be frustrated when they've tried to purchase an item and they could not have possibly purchased it any quicker, maybe an item that would have made them a lot of money that's just been listed but has already instantly been bought, and you just sometimes think to yourself, you know, is that just a bot? Well, even if it is a bot, at least you can find a little bit of comfort in knowing that they make stupid purchases like we've seen in this video. You know, once again, I probably wouldn't recommend actually trying this for yourself. Just seems really dodgy. But if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.